Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at noon with another video. Well, as you know, I'm in Vegas this week. That's right. I probably already won over $12. The Junkman loves to gamble. Well, I don't really gamble unless it's poker. I do like playing some Texas Hold'em. So maybe I'm playing Texas Hold'em right now. But back here in the Junk Room, I'm going to show you a classic video. I think this is from about 2019. And we're going to talk about a planned Star Wars arcade game that never made it to the stores. I don't know about you. I would have loved this at my local arcade. They had some cool Star Wars games back in the day, but this one would have been awesome. Why? Because you get to sit on it. And it's based on one of the best scenes for Return of the Jedi, the speeder bike chase. Oh, nothing was more exciting in 1983 than the speeder bike race. You see that in the movies, and you go home and get on your bike and ride through the woods, and you thought you were on a speeder bike. It was awesome. So let's go back to 2019. Sorry the video quality or audio is not as good as it is now, but I think it's still watchable. Let's go back to 2019 and talk about the unreleased Star Wars arcade game. Well, we're going to talk about an arcade Star Wars game that never got released. We're going to look at the concept art and tell you all about it. One of the coolest things about Return of the Jedi had to be the speeder bike chase on Endor. As a kid, we all loved it. And we all still love it today. This was an exciting scene in Return of the Jedi. I can remember coming home after seeing Return of the Jedi and hopping on my bicycle, riding it around the woods, acting like I was on a speeder bike. And I was shooting lasers out of my handlebars. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that recreated the speeder bike scene from Return of the Jedi on their bicycle as a kid. But besides loving Return of the Jedi speeder bike scenes, there's something we all loved in the 80s, and that was video games. But there was never a Return of the Jedi video game that really captured the speeder bike feel. In 1984, Atari did release an arcade Return of the Jedi game, and it had a stage on that game where you get to pilot a speeder bike, but you never got that realistic feel of being on a speeder bike. You were standing there with the controllers, and it didn't feel like you were on a speeder bike. And there were other stages in that game where you got to fly the Falcon, and even got to control an AT-ST. But it seems at one time we almost got a real arcade game where it felt like you were controlling a speeder bike. Sadly, the plans never really got farther than the concept stage. But thanks to the concept art, we get to see what we almost had. And let's look at the 4 plans Atari did have for the speeder bike game. We all know upright style. It's the standard arcade version. You know, like an arcade cabinet, stands upright, and you stand in front of it and play your video game. As you can see in the concept art, the controls were built like a speeder bike to let the players feel like they're controlling a real speeder bike. According to the notes on the concept art, one handle would control the speeder bike speed while the other one controlled the steering. That looks pretty cool. You stand in front of it, have your hands right here like on a speeder bike, and I guess this one can kind of control your steering. Maybe you could turn it like this, not really sure. Another one's probably throttle like a motorcycle to control the speed. That would have been very cool. Now, let's look at the concept for the Vanilla Rider. It was going to be a cabinet game also, but a little different. This cabinet style game would extend out to make a seat area for the speeder bike, so players could sit on the machine as if it was a speeder bike, giving it a much more realistic feel while playing. It would even have a footrest at an angle, like a speeder bike's foot would be at full throttle. This was pretty cool, to get to actually kind of sit on a speeder bike with your hands out, your feet in right position. It could really make you feel like you're part of the indoor speeder bike scene. Now let's look at the one entitled Whiz Bang Rider. This one here was a more full-size speeder, only missing the front part of the speeder bike. This one here had a steel pipe supporting the rider and would allow slight flexing. Also, according to the concept art notes, it had vacuum foam. So I'm guessing from the notes here, this one was made where the rider could tilt the bike left to right while playing the game to make it feel more real. And there's one more. To me personally, this is probably the one I don't like the most out of all 4 of these. But if I saw it in an arcade, I'm sure I would have played it. So let's look at the one just titled Jedi. This was a cabinet game with handlebars only, much like the first concept art we looked at. But here a seat would have been added to let players sit down while playing the game. This one here left about 90% of the speeder bike missing. It would have had 2 pegs for your feet to rest on while playing. And that's a look at the concept art for the speeder bike game. There's really no information about what the game itself would have been, or if it even got that far into the planning. Like I said, in 1984, Return of the Jedi game was released, but it didn't focus just on the speeder bike. Now, during my research, I've seen where people said that the Return of the Jedi game in 1984 would have been the same game on this speeder bike machine. But I'm not sure if I buy that one, because that game was more than just a speeder bike. There you got to fly the Falcon twice, and you got to control an AT-ST. For a game that looked like a speeder bike, sitting on a speeder bike, it would be a very odd game to control the Falcon and the AT-ST while sitting on a speeder bike. So I think if we got the release of this, it would have been more of a speeder bike game. True, they could have taken the speeder bike level from the 1984 Return of the Jedi game, expanded it into one game. If they ever did this, I hope it would be a PVO scene where it looks like you're flying the speeder bike from playing the game, and you're not looking down on the speeder bikes like the 1984 game. But again, sadly, we'll never know, as it never got that far in development. Now, in the concept art, at the header of the arcade right here, you can see they wrote speeder bike, making me think the game was going to be a Star Wars speeder bike game. Although the 4th concept art does say Return of the Jedi, again, from everything I've read, and just seems likely that this was going to be a game all to itself and not just the 1984 Return of the Jedi game built around a speeder bike arcade machine. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Tell me in the comments below, would you have loved to have seen this in the arcade? I do. I really wish they would have made this. I remember in the early 2000s they had a pod race game where you got to actually sit in a pod race and act like you were controlling one of the pod racers. It was very fun. And I know if I saw this as a kid, I would have never got off that speeder bike. It would have ate up all my quarters for sure. Or, I guess, tokens. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Head over to patreon.com to support the channel. Hit thumbs up so I know you like more of these concept type videos. And we'll talk again very soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.